What's up guys, my name's Adam LZ, and today we're going to be talking about the difference between cassettes and Freecoasters. I'm going to tell you the best things about riding a Freecoaster and the worst things about riding a Freecoaster, and just little things that I've learned along the way. So most of you guys already know the difference between a Freecoaster and a cassette, but just in case you don't, I'm just going to explain a little bit real quick. With a cassette, you go to pedal, and it engages. When you roll backwards, your pedals are going to spin backwards because it's just how the hub works. Now with the Freecoaster, there's a little bit of slack before the wheel starts moving. So what this means is you're going to go to pedal and there's going to be a little bit of time where your pedals move forward before it actually engages. With a Freecoaster, you can roll backwards without having to pedal backwards. One of the most common misconceptions about Freecoasters is that it makes fakies easier. Believe it or not, in my opinion, it's actually more difficult to go backwards with a Freecoaster just because that pedaling backwards motion of a cassette hub actually helps you keep balanced. So if you're thinking about getting a Freecoaster just so you can learn fakies more easily, you might want to think again. So before you watch the rest of this video, I just want you guys to keep in mind that most of this is subject to opinion. I'm going to tell you things that I like about coasters and that I don't like, and it's not the same for everybody. Don't take what I say like it's the only truth. There are a lot of people that have different opinions than me, and I just like to express mine. So the first thing I want to do is just talk about some of the benefits of riding a Freecoaster. One, it's easy to fakie going faster. If you're doing a 180 down, I don't know, like a 12 set and you're flying, you don't have to worry about the backwards pedal catching up and falling on your butt like you would with a cassette. One of my favorite things about Freecoasters is actually the lack of sound. Obviously you spin the wheel and there's no sound because there aren't a bunch of springs that are just like brrrr on the inside of the hub. It has like a clutch mechanism, so it just kind of like free coasts. I just like the fact that it's quiet because it's really fun on my college campus to just go flying by people and they don't even hear you. It's really fun to scare them. It can also be kind of cool when you're like riding a skate park because you don't hear anything but your tires. When you're pumping really hard, all you hear is woof, woof. It's just kind of a cool thing about them. Another general benefit of riding a Freecoaster that a lot of people talk about is just the fact that you are quieter so you don't get kicked out of spots as much. I don't know that like cassette hubs actually attract too much noise, but if you compare nowadays with people riding Freecoasters and plastic pegs to 5 years ago when everyone was riding cassettes and metal pegs, you do make significantly less noise, which may let you be able to ride a spot a bit longer than you could have in the past. All right, so let's talk about some tricks that are easier with a Freecoaster. Obviously, backwards manuals. I personally love doing backwards manuals on a cassette just because I use the pedals to gauge my balance. The nice thing about a Freecoaster is you can go back for a really long time and you can just kind of lock into a backwards manual. When you're doing like 180s to backwards manuals, you just kind of lean back and you can just kind of sit in it. They're a bit weird to learn, but once you get them, it's a really fun trick. That was one of the reasons why I switched to Freecoaster, just because I wanted to do backwards manuals on them, but I'll talk about more reasons why I switched at the end. I know most of you guys probably aren't doing a lot of 180 tail whips, but it makes those way easier because when you're doing tail whips, you tend to catch cranks, and when you're doing a 180 tail whip, you catch cranks, and you go to fakie, and your feet get sandwiched in between the frame because they're not on the pedals. You could learn to catch pedals, which is difficult, or you could ride a Freecoaster and you can land cranks every time and not have to worry about doing the fakie. It's also the same story with other no-footed tricks that you might have to worry about, so that's a cool thing about them. Another trick that I figured out is way easier, backwards grinds. The wheel can spin backwards, right? If you guys ever notice, if you go to do a backwards grind with a cassette hub, sometimes your tire will grab the ledge, and then if you have a little bit of pedal pressure, that'll slow you down because that friction with the tire and the ledge, where with a Freecoaster, it can spin and you don't really have to worry about it messing with your pedals because obviously it's a Freecoaster. So that makes backwards grinds, backwards ice picks, etc. way easier. Backwards smiths, just a lot of things where that would screw you up. Obviously, there are a lot of tricks that are more difficult on Freecoasters too. But first, I just want to talk about some of the general negatives that I noticed when I switched to a Freecoaster. The first one is hitting your knee on your stem. If you guys have ever broken your chain, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Because of the slack, you'll go to pedal and you go and then your knee will just slam right in the stem because you're not expecting it. It's gonna take a little while to get used to. People normally say it takes like 2 or 3 weeks to get used to riding a Freecoaster, so just keep that in mind. But that is one thing that drove me insane in the beginning. That little bit of slack also makes it really tough to ride park, in my opinion. I always feel like an idiot when I'm at the top of a quarter pipe and I'm kind of like trying to drop in and like find that point of engagement so I can crank up and then pump in a quarter. Also, I nearly smashed my face when I was going around a bowl and I was like flying like really fast, right? And like I went to go get a little bit extra speed to jump this gap, and I forgot that I was riding a Freecoaster, so I just went. You just really have to keep it on your mind at all times when you switch to one because it will screw you up. Another thing that I really don't like about Freecoasters, which I also like about them, is the lack of sound. I love the sound of a cassette. It's just music to my ears. Not having that sound is kind of weird because I feel like that sound, when I know that I'm going faster because they are brrrr, that makes me want to go faster, and I feel like I just ride faster because of that sound. Because of the lack of sound, I find Freecoasters to be really boring in video clips. Obviously, with our webisodes, there's no music. So when you have no music and I'm riding a Freecoaster hub, it's kind of boring because there's no sound in the clip. And I personally find it boring to watch. You guys have probably been told that Freecoasters break a lot or that they're high maintenance. A lot of that's not true, and it's just the only people that you hear it from are the people that have issues. So it sounds like there's more issues than there actually are. The truth of the matter is that Freecoasters do require more maintenance just because of the nature of the design. The bearings will kind of wear out. You may have issues depending on how you ride. If you take care of your hub, you'll be good. It's just something to keep in mind. One of the biggest negatives of Freecoasters to me is the weight. You can call me a weight weenie if you want, but I normally don't care about weight, but I notice a huge difference when it's in my back end, especially when I'm doing tail whips or spins. Just having that weight in the back end makes things a little bit more difficult for me. You may not notice it. I personally did, probably just because I've ridden a cassette for so long, but the weight factor is just something to keep in mind if that bothers you. I have the Shadow Freecoaster hub, which isn't the lightest one in the market, but has huge bearings and it's supposed to be one of the most durable ones. I'd rather have something a little bit heavier that I know is not gonna break than something that's super light and have to worry about it breaking and not being able to ride every session. So you guys are probably wondering, what tricks are gonna be harder to do when you have a Freecoaster? Well, the first and most obvious are full cabs. If you go on and look at people's videos, there are kids that are like 13 years old doing full cabs on cassettes like they're nothing, but then you give them a Freecoaster and like all of a sudden it becomes a really difficult trick. Why? Well, with Freecoasters, you don't have pedal pressure, which affects a lot of tricks. So when you're doing a full cab, you have to kind of just like go fakie and then just kind of yank up. They're really weird, but they feel kind of cool just because it's literally like a completely different trick. For me, Freecoasters made balancing and manuals and backwards manual and all that stuff a bit more difficult just because I use pedal pressure for a lot of things. Some people don't like it when people use pedal pressure, but that's how I do a lot of my tricks. So, you know, it's freestyle BMX. I don't care what you think. Manual 180s got harder for me because I use pedal pressure. Manual 360s especially, I give such a hard crank when I do those. With a Freecoaster, I just kind of have to balance and just loop out. I can still do it, it's just way more difficult and I'm much less consistent with it. A lot of my hard spin tricks got more difficult too, just because with a lot of them I land a little bit under rotated and then give a crank when I land just to like keep my forward momentum going. You probably don't notice it in clips. I didn't even notice I did it until I switched to a Freecoaster because I'll land a little under rotated and then I'll go to give a crank and I'll go and I'll fall flat on my face. Another thing that I personally don't like about Freecoasters is how it made my style look. Now yeah, that's kind of on me, but being on a Freecoaster just made me ride really slow and I hated it. I don't know if it's because I didn't have the cassette noise or because I just wouldn't do half cranks because the slack annoyed me. But I noticed when I ride a cassette, I ride like almost twice as fast as I do on a coaster. And I think every trick looks better faster. So it drives me insane when I go and watch clips back of myself riding my coaster because I just think I look ugly when I ride and I look like every other rider out there. And I'm not saying like every rider out there is ugly. I just personally like to watch people go fast and I like my style to stand out from everyone else's. So when I rode a Freecoaster, I just kind of felt like it was another fish in the sea. So you might be wondering, why is everyone all of a sudden riding Freecoasters? In like the past year, nearly every single pro that I looked up to, and probably that you guys look up to, has switched to riding a Freecoaster. Why? I personally have no idea. Before I used to think there's some sort of conspiracy in the BMX industry where they're just forcing all the pro riders to switch just so they could sell them and market them to a lot of little kids. I don't think that's true. I don't know why everyone switched, but I'll tell you the reasons why I switched. I don't know if you guys remember, but the OSS guys came down to Florida and stayed with us for quite a while. And you know, Began just made the Freecoaster look so fun. I just look up to Began so much and I just wanted him to ride exactly like Began did, so I got a Freecoaster. All jokes aside, I actually didn't want to ride a Freecoaster because Began rode one. That was probably the reason why it took me so long to switch. But when I rode Adam 22's bike, it felt great. He had huge bars, you know, he's a tall guy, just 21-inch frame, I think. He had a Freecoaster, obviously. Now, when I hopped on his bike and it felt amazing, and I was able to do a backwards manual full cab, like third go, I was like, all right, I want a Freecoaster, and I was sold on it. Another reason why I switched is just because I wanted like to change things up a bit. I was getting kind of bored of doing all the same tricks on my cassette, so it was kind of cool to have a Freecoasters to be able to try new things, and you know, you have to relearn a couple tricks. My personal setup is a Shadow Freecoaster complete wheel. I was told that people like to run max slack, but I personally don't. Out of the box, it came with about half a crank of slack. It's like, woo, and then it catches. So going from riding a cassette for all my life, that was really, really weird. I put 2 of the spacers in that it came with, and that reduced it to about a quarter crank of slack, which is good for me. If you have too little slack, you're gonna fakie and you're gonna adjust your feet a little bit, and then it's gonna throw you off your bike because all of a sudden it'll catch. This never really happened to me with 2 spacers, except for when I would do like really high 3 fakies on quarter pipes, because I think when I do those, like, I don't know, you just adjust your feet a lot. So obviously you can have a lot of slack, but then you're gonna be annoyed by having to pedal and worrying about it catching all the time. Or you could have a little, and then you basically defeat the purpose of a Freecoaster because you're going backwards and it just keeps going. Now, when I took the hub apart to put 2 more spacers in, I've never seen anything like it before. The inside of the hub is like a mystery to me. I still don't understand completely how it works. So of course, when I go to put it back together, I put it back together incorrectly, and I go put it on my bike, and it doesn't engage at all, and it just keeps going. Lesson learned from this, if you don't know what you're doing, don't take apart the Freecoaster hub, bring it to a bike shop, have someone do it that knows what they're doing. We were able to fix my hub, but I felt like an idiot because I've been working on hubs my whole entire life, and I managed to screw it up. You guys might have heard some rumors about a Profile Z coaster that's coming out. I might be interested in trying that because basically, as far as I know, it's kind of like a cassette and a Freecoaster, and it's not like something that you swap or anything. It's like, brrr, like when you're riding, and then I'm pretty sure you just like crank back real quick, and then it turns into a Freecoaster. which is really weird, kind of confusing, but I hear it's really simple and it could basically change the whole entire BMX free coaster world. So I'm excited to see how that is. Maybe I'll get to try one out. A lot of people are wondering if I'll ever make the switch back to a cassette. The answer is yes. I will definitely make the switch back to a cassette at some point. There are way too many benefits of the cassette in my eyes personally that I really miss compared to riding a free coaster. So it's likely that I'll probably switch in the next couple weeks. But that's not to say that I'm never gonna ride a free coaster again. I might just switch back and forth, you know? It's fun to keep things fresh. You don't wanna really be too stuck in one sort of style because it gets boring. Keep it fun. Putting brakes on at some point could be fun for me just because, you know, then you can go and learn foo-fa-noos and bars to foo-fa-noos, and it just opens up like a huge new window of tricks. Don't think there's only one right answer. There's obviously a ton of guys that ride free coasters, but there's still a ton of people that ride cassettes. So bottom line, do I recommend that you switch to a free coaster? My answer, if you're a beginner, no. A lot of you guys think it'll be easier to learn fakies and other tricks, but personally, I think it makes it more difficult, and I don't think you'll be as stoked on riding BMX if you're riding a free coaster when you're starting out. Now, if you've been riding for a little while and you're comfortable doing fakies with a lot of different tricks, switching to a free coaster could be cool. Before you go and order one, try out a friend's bike. Try messing around, see if you like it. You might hate it, you might not. What everyone told me is you have to give it like at least 3 weeks before you switch back, because when I first got my coaster, I absolutely hated it. I just wanted to switch so badly, and everyone just kept telling me, just keep it on for 3 weeks, just keep it on for 3 weeks. And after 3 weeks, it did get a bit better. I got more used to it, and it felt a bit more natural, but I'm still thinking that I might make the switch back. So free coasters are becoming cheaper and cheaper, and they're becoming built better and better. So you might want to make the switch. If you do decide to make the switch, definitely check out the Shadow Free Coaster. I have nothing but good things to say about it, so it's definitely something to consider. I really like making videos like this just because I get an opportunity to talk about things that I don't in other like webisode or edit style videos. So if you guys have any ideas of what you want me to talk about next time, I'll try to do these as often as possible. Truthfully, it's just kind of weird when we have people over because I'm literally just talking to a camera on a tripod and it's extremely awkward. Like Robert's in the other room right now and I made him put in headphones just because I'm so self-conscious about how I sound when I'm talking to myself into a camera. I'm sure you guys can imagine how awkward it is. So once again, guys, thanks for watching. And if you want to learn anything more about my bike and what I ride, you can check out my bike check at the link at the end of this video. Later.
I have a coaster now, so I'm gonna do a coaster move.
I have a Shadow Sprocket. I don't remember which one it is.
It's extremely strong, and I just like it because it matches my car.
These tires are good, they got a lot of rubber. So my bike weighs about 25 pounds, 9.5 wide, 28.5 wide.
When you say